Mosi, once celebrated by the whole villagers, now shackled in the grasp of the king's guards. What led to this moment of disgrace? Who is Mosi? And how will Uzuri heal from the wounds of deception? Join us as we unravel the layers of this compelling story, woven with courage, deceit, and the unbreakable spirit of a community. In the heart of a land kissed by the sun, cradled by the gentle whispers of ancient trees and the boundless embrace of the sky, lay Uzuri Village. Beauty, its name in the local tongue, perfectly captured its essence, a haven where peace and harmony bloomed as freely as the lush greenery that adorned its landscape. Life in Uzuri was a dance of simple joys and traditions woven deep into the fabric of everyday existence. The village itself was a vibrant patchwork of thatched roofs and walls of sun-dried mud, each structure a keeper of stories handed down through generations. The air was rich with the earthy fragrance of the land, intermingled with the sweet scent of fruits ripening under the sun's gaze. With the dawn, Uzuri awakened to the harmony of nature's song and the rhythmic pulse of daily life. At the heart of the village's culture was palm wine, a treasured gift from the gods who had bestowed the land upon their ancestors. This divine elixir was more than a mere drink. It was the lifeblood of the community, a symbol of unity and the shared spirit of Uzuri. Even the princes were often found among the villagers in the cool of the evening, enjoying the blessedness of palm wine. The king of the village, King Kwame, who is regarded as the representation of the gods, in the village coming to them in human form, highly honored and revered, celebrates with the village in an annual banquet every year under the moonlight. This celebration has now become central to Uzuri's culture, a tradition that bound the community in a circle of unity and joy. King Kwame would dine with the village, not only as ruler but as a man among his people, bringing the gods' presence into their midst. This feast was a time when all ranks and roles faded away, leaving only the bond of community under the vast African sky. Every year, the king will always choose the finest seller to provide the palm wine for the entire celebration. When it was time for the communal convergence and the king was to choose the finest palm wine seller, he chose a young man named Zulu, whose dedication to his craft was matched only by his vibrant spirit. The king, raising a toast to Zulu, now turned to welcome newcomers to Uzuri, in keeping with the village's tradition of openness and hospitality. The first to come forward were two strangers with dreams of finding their place in Uzuri's tapestry of life. An elderly woman, her hands skilled in the ancient art of pottery, sought to share her craft with the village, adding to its prosperity. A young man followed, his eyes alight with quiet ambition and a heart heavy with memories. He introduced himself as Mosi, meaning the first, signaling his hope for a new beginning among them. He was a tall man with a broad smile that seemed to light up his face, carrying nothing but a few belongings and an aura of mystery. King Kwame, a man whose wisdom was as vast as the land he governed, leaned back, stroked his chin thoughtfully, and inquired about the purpose of his visit. With a respectful bow, Mosi introduced himself, his voice carrying a melodic tone that captured the attention of all around. "I come from a land far beyond the hills," he began. "I am an orphan, raised by my grandfather, who taught me the art of palm wine tapping. With his passing, I seek to start anew, to share the fruits of my craft with your village." The king, intrigued, nodded for him to continue. "In my travels, I have heard much of your village's harmony and prosperity. I wish to contribute to this community, to sell my palm wine and live among you as one of your own." The king, impressed by Mosi's resolve, yet concerned for the balance of the village's ways, offered a nod of understanding. "It is rare to see such determination," he conceded. "As our guest, I offer you a piece of land at the village's edge. Consider it a welcome gift, but remember, ours is a village that values harmony above all." Gratitude flashed in Mosi's eyes as he bowed deeply. As Mosi turned to survey his new beginning, whispers of curiosity and speculation spread among the villagers. Unbeknownst to them, the arrival of Mosi would soon weave a new thread into the fabric of their lives, setting the stage for a tale of ambition, deceit, and the quest for redemption. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the village, Mosi finally set up his palm wine stand, which is fast becoming a beacon for the villagers, drawing them in with the promise of the finest wine and lowest prices. The air was filled with the rich aroma of palm wine, mingling with the earthy scents of the surrounding forest. Mosi, with a smile as warm as the setting sun, greeted each customer like an old friend. His generosity knew no bounds. He often poured extra wine for his regulars, insisting it was on the house. "The ancestors bless us with abundance," he would say, his voice carrying a hint of mystery that intrigued the villagers. What truly set Mosi apart was his seemingly endless supply of palm wine. Even Zulu, who had once prided himself on never running low, could not fathom how Mosi managed this feat. When asked about his abundant stock, Mosi would simply smile gently and say, "I have suppliers from all corners of the world." This statement only added to his mystique, leaving many to wonder about the breadth of his connections and the secrets to his trade. But no one really cared so far they could get the sweet wine to fill their belly. The village had never seen such prosperity in the palm wine trade. Mosi's techniques were unparalleled, and his wine was unmatched in flavor and potency. Word of his exceptional brew spread like wildfire, attracting even those from neighboring villages. Zulu watched from a distance, his once thriving business now a shadow of its former glory. The arrival of Mosi had shifted the balance, and despite his efforts, Zulu found it increasingly difficult to compete. The camaraderie and laughter that once filled his own store were now a rare sight, with most of his customers drawn to Mosi's magnetic presence. As Mosi's wealth grew, so did his ambition. One by one, he approached the struggling palm wine sellers, offering to buy their stores and employ them under his expanding empire. Many, worn down by their faltering businesses and enticed by Mosi's lucrative offers, reluctantly agreed. They admired Mosi but feared him too, aware of the mysterious men who stood guard at his stand, their eyes scanning the crowd with a watchful gaze. Mosi's influence extended to the highest echelons of the village. The king, impressed by the abundance and quality of Mosi's wine, granted him the honor of supplying the next annual feast. This endorsement was unprecedented, solidifying Mosi's status as the undisputed king of palm wine. The night of the feast arrived, a grand affair with the village square lavishly decorated, illuminated by hundreds of lanterns that flickered like stars come to earth. Mosi was at the center of it all, his stand proudly displaying an array of wine jars, each filled to the brim with his celebrated brew. As the villagers danced and feasted, toasting to their king and the prosperity that Mosi had brought to their village, a sense of unease settled over Zulu. He couldn't shake the feeling that Mosi's meteoric rise had blotted his own star. He knew there's a secret behind his success and made a vow to himself to uncover Mosi's secret, whatever it may be, and restore the balance and integrity of his palm wine trade. Little did he know, his quest would reveal more than he bargained for, setting the stage for a confrontation that would shake the village to its core. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the village as Zulu prepared his shop for the evening's customers. Once the most prosperous palm wine seller in the area, Zulu had watched his fortunes dwindle ever since Mosi's arrival. His once bustling shop now echoed with the silence of lost patronage, a stark reminder of Mosi's growing influence. As Zulu arranged his remaining jars of palm wine, two men approached his shop. Their demeanor was menacing, and their intent was clear even before they smashed the first jar. Mosi sends his regards, they sneered, as the sound of breaking glass filled the air. Zulu tried to protest, to defend his life's work, but the men were relentless. They destroyed what little he had left, leaving Zulu with a shattered shop and a broken spirit. The men's laughter faded into the night, leaving Zulu alone amid the wreckage of his shop. He sat on the ground, feeling despair he had never known, and realizing that his dream of reviving his business was slipping through his fingers like the sands of the desert. The attack wasn't just about ruining my business, he thought. It must truly be a message from Mosi, a declaration that I'm no longer welcomed in my own village. Zulu's thoughts turned to Nia, the king's daughter. They had become friends since childhood, but it was a relationship he hoped to end in love. He finds his way to the beauty palace where she plays with her royal mates every evening to explain the daring situation. But on getting there, he meets an unexpected stumbling block that makes him start boiling in anger. He saw Mosi and Nia talking, and the way she responded with bright laughter that bruised his heart. Zulu feared even her light would be extinguished from his life. He returned quickly to his home, regretting his decision to meet the princess after beholding the sight of the love of his heart and his sworn enemy in a seemingly good relationship. As the night grew quiet, Zulu knelt among the remnants of his livelihood, his thoughts dark with vengeance. He knew that to save his business, and perhaps win Nia's heart, he would have to confront Mosi. But how could he, a simple wine seller, take on a man who already had the village at his command? In the depth of his despair, Zulu made a vow. He would not let Mosi's treachery go unchallenged. He would find a way to expose Mosi's deceit and restore his trade. The following day, Zulu, filled with indignation and a sense of injustice, made a bold decision. He would go directly to the king, believing that the monarch's sense of fairness and justice would prevail over Mosi's treachery. Gathering his courage, Zulu approached the royal palace the next morning, his steps heavy with the weight of his accusations. Upon being granted an audience with the king, and Mosi being present also, Zulu poured out his heart, detailing the sabotage of his business and pointing to Mosi as the orchestrator. He spoke of the men Mosi sent to attack him, and his seemingly miraculous supply of wine, and how it had put every other seller out of business, including him. Zulu implored the king to see the truth behind Mosi's sudden rise, the underhanded tactics that endangered the village's harmony. The king, however, was not moved by Zulu's passionate plea. The king then ordered the men that attacked his shop to be brought in. Upon arrival, they told the king that they were drunk, and while passing his shop, he called them to drink. But when they refused, he started a fight with them, and they were out of control. It was at this time that Zulu realized that he had been tricked into losing the king's trust. Without tangible evidence to support his claims, Zulu's accusations appeared baseless, driven by personal vendetta rather than fact. The village had indeed flourished since Mosi's arrival, with the king himself enjoying the benefits of Mosi's generous wine supply. To the king, Zulu's words were nothing more than the bitter grapes of envy. In a shocking turn of events, the king ordered Zulu to be locked up for 3 nights for slander, hatred, and jealousy towards Mosi, whom he deemed an innocent man contributing positively to the village's prosperity. Zulu's desperate attempt to seek justice ended with him behind bars, reflecting on the bitter irony of his situation. His attempt to protect the village from Mosi's deceit had only served to alienate him further from his community and the woman he loved. These nights in the cold, dark cell were a time of deep introspection for Zulu. The physical confinement could not cage his spirit, which burned ever brighter with the determination to expose Mosi's true nature. Each passing moment reinforced his resolve to fight, not just for his vindication, but for the soul of the village itself. As the dawn of the third day broke, marking the end of his confinement, Zulu emerged from his cell, ashamed but determined to undertake whatever measures necessary to restore his honor. However, as days passed, Zulu's resolve dwindled. His once thriving store stood eerily quiet, the laughter and chatter that used to fill the air replaced by a suffocating silence. His barrels of palm wine, once coveted by all, now barely sold. Mosi's enterprise had swiftly monopolized the village's palm wine market with an abundance and price Zulu couldn't compete with. The villagers, his longtime customers, had gradually drifted to Mosi's store, lured by the inexplicable surplus and low costs. He could no longer keep his palm wine shop running. The thought of doing other businesses crossed his mind, but his love for the palm wine business couldn't allow him. He then determined that it was better to be an honorable slave and accept Mosi's offer. Just days after his attack, Mosi had approached him with an offer to join his expanding empire. "There's room for you under my wing," Mosi had said, his smile too wide, too knowing. "Why struggle when you can share in my success?" It was a lifeline, thrown casually by the man who had orchestrated his downfall. Joining Mosi, however, was not a decision Zulu could make lightly. It meant working under the very person who had sought to destroy him, accepting defeat, and turning his back on the independence he had always prized. Yet, what choice did he have? Pride would not feed his parents or pay his debts. On a humid evening, cloaked in the scent of ripening fruits and the lingering warmth of the day, Zulu's world teetered on the edge of ruin. He sat in his palm wine store, broken and drunk. The last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon as Zulu pondered his dwindling options, his heart heavy with despair. He then decided to meet Mosi to work under him. It was already late in the evening, but the thought of sleeping over could change his decision. Cloaked in darkness, Zulu navigated the back alleys of the village, moving with the silent grace of a shadow. His heart pounded against his chest, a drumbeat of courage and fear mingling in the cool night air. As he approached Mosi's store, the muffled sounds of conversation pierced the silence, drawing Zulu closer. Peering through a crack in the wooden fence, Zulu's gaze fell upon a chilling scene. Mosi stood surrounded by a group of men, each holding a bottle from which they took turns urinating into a large wine jar filled with water. Mosi's laughter, a sinister melody, filled the air as he urged them on, proclaiming the vile mixture as the secret to his wealth. They poured the urine into different jars, filled with water, and added a portion inside a bottle, mixing it, and immediately turning it into palm wine. Horror clenched Zulu's heart as the reality of Mosi's betrayal unfolded before his eyes. The wine that had flowed so abundantly, that had graced the lips of villagers and royalty alike, was nothing but a desecration, a mockery of the sacred tradition of palm wine brewing. Mosi then called one of his servants to test the efficiency of the new wine they had brought from the market. Upon testing it, he confirmed the taste and went away. Fueled by a surge of revulsion and determination, Zulu retreated into the night, the weight of his discovery pressing down on him. The journey back to his home was a blur, every step propelled by the urgent need to expose Mosi's treachery and save the village from further deception. When Zulu got home, he narrated his experience to his parents, and while speaking, Nia, the princess, was returning late and decided to greet her childhood friend. However, she also has a hidden wish that their relationship transcends into love, a wish that has been crowded by Zulu's recent disagreement with the king. While she was about to announce her arrival, she heard Zulu's voice and listened to everything he explained to his parents. In shock, she departed to the palace and reported to the king, who listens to whatever she says, no matter how insignificant. The annual celebration is in 7 days' time, so Mosi would be making his evil concoction all night, the king said in disbelief, but not wanting to offend his cherished princess. Rest. I'll send men to monitor him starting from tomorrow. As the village slept, Zulu, his parents, and Nia couldn't sleep but thought through the night the storm that was to battle the village. As the village buzzes with excitement for the king's annual feast, Zulu is disturbed but dares not to face the king and is ashamed to meet Nia. He became so hopeless. In the heart of Uzuri Village, as the dawn of the feast day painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, a palpable tension threaded through the air, unseen but deeply felt. King Kwame, moved by Nia's unsettling revelation and sleepless nights, had dispatched his most trusted men to shadow Mosi, their eyes veiled by the shadows, their presence unknown. Mosi, unaware of the silent watchers in his midst, continued his sinister preparations. Every night, the men would bring the message to the king, but in disbelief would send different men each night, also bringing the same evil report. The eve before the feast, as the village lay in a restless slumber, the king's servant heard a different story this time. When Mosi was done with the preparation, he said to himself, "Finally, tomorrow is the last day for this evil village, and that ignorant king will bow to me forever." The evidence was undeniable, the betrayal unfathomable. The king was displeased to hear the shocking truth and commanded his immediate arrest. That night, Mosi and his cohort were arrested by the king's men, but Mosi couldn't stop babbling of his achievements and how he's the king's most trusted supplier. As the sun rose, bringing light to the darkness of deceit, the villagers had gathered in anticipation to feast with the king. As they were all seated and the king also came to sit, Zulu stood tall amidst the crowd, determined to tell the truth, even if he would be severely punished. He couldn't find Mosi seated, but yet he declared his evil intentions and how he prepared his palm wine. The villagers started shouting at him, calling him a loser, when the king ordered his men to bring in Mosi. The villagers, confused and anxious, watched as Mosi was brought forward in chains, the proof of his treachery displayed for all to see. Nia, the princess, came forward and narrated what had happened to the villagers, and they all gasped in shock and disbelief. Zulu also stared in shock as tears filled his eyes. The village erupts in chaos, with many expressing their anger. The wine that had bonded them, that they had consumed in celebration and trust, was a concoction born of deceit and disrespect for their sacred traditions. The betrayal was not just Mosi's, but a betrayal of the very essence of Uzuri. King Kwame, a pillar of strength and wisdom, stood before his people, the weight of justice and leadership heavy upon his shoulders. With a voice that echoed with the betrayal of trust and the sorrow of a leader deceived, he addressed his people, commending Zulu and Nia for their bravery and integrity. Afterwards, the king turned to Mosi. "You came to us as a stranger, and we welcomed you with open arms, sharing our homes, our traditions, and our trust. Yet, you sought to repay our hospitality with deceit and suffering. What do you say in your defense?" Mosi, his usual charisma now dulled by his predicament, lifted his head to meet the king's gaze. His voice, when he spoke, was a mix of defiance and resignation. "Your Majesty, I confess to my crimes against this village, but know this, my actions were not born of greed, but of vengeance. I was born in this very palace, and my parents were once loyal servants, their lives dedicated to serving the queen of the last two kings that reigned before you. But when tragedy struck and the queen passed away untimely, they were accused of harboring ill will against the royal family and were executed, a barbaric tradition that demanded blood for blood, Every servant of a major royal member who dies must also be killed with their family. A murmur ran through the crowd as the darker chapters of their history were brought to light. Mosi continued, "My grandfather was able to rescue me, though I was but a child at that time, left to fend for myself in a world that had shown me no mercy. However, I had learned the way of this village and swore to avenge their unjust deaths, to curse this village so that no one would live beyond the age my parents were when they were taken from me." He paused, a bitter smile playing on his lips. "However, I confess, my curse will not fulfill its intended span. It required this second grand celebration to take full effect under the moon sky." The king listened, his expression unreadable. When Mosi finished, the king addressed the assembly. "This tragedy, born from the misdeeds of our past, ends today. We will no longer be bound by the cruel traditions that have brought nothing but sorrow to our people." Turning to Mosi, the king decreed, "For your crimes against this village and its people, you will serve this community in labor, contributing to the very lives you sought to destroy. And there shall be no end to this labor till you die. This is your path to redemption, if such a thing is still within your heart to seek." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others exchanged glances of skepticism, but all listened intently as the king spoke of the future. "Let this moment be a turning point for us all. We must look forward, learning from our past, striving to build a community where such injustices never take root again. Let us heal together, work together, and grow stronger together." As Mosi was led away, the crowd dispersed, the air filled with whispers of the past, the present, and the future. This moment marked not just the end of Mosi's reign of terror, but the beginning of a new chapter for the village, one written with the ink of understanding, forgiveness, and a renewed commitment to justice. As dawn broke over the horizon, the village stirred to life, its heart beating with a newfound vigor. The air was filled with the sound of laughter and the rhythmic thumping of drums, a melody that seemed to wash away the shadows of recent events. Zulu, once beleaguered by Mosi's schemes, had emerged not only vindicated but as a pillar of the community. His humble wine shop had been restored, now a symbol not of competition, but of the village's resilience. Nia, the king's daughter, was by his side, her love brightened, her support a testament to the strength found in genuine connections that no force can break. This story emphasizes how unity can overcome the darkest of challenges, and despite the betrayal and deceit, the act of forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but a powerful statement of values and commitment to living in harmony. Let the story of Mosi, a man driven by the desire for vengeance, remind us of the destructive power of harboring ill will. Let us learn from the past and move forward with hearts filled with love and understanding. And so, Uzuri Village moved forward, its beauty and harmony restored, its heart beating stronger than ever. In the embrace of the ancient trees and under the watchful gaze of the sky, the village stood, a beacon of light, love, and hope for all who seek refuge in its warmth. In the end, Uzuri was not just a village, but a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. Its story, woven into the tapestry of time, would be passed down through generations, a reminder of the power of unity, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bonds of community. Thank you for joining us on this vibrant journey through Uzuri Village. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to hit the like button to show your support. Subscribe to our channel and tap the bell icon so you won't miss out on more captivating stories like this one. We have many more tales to share, and we'd love for you to be part of our growing community. And remember, your thoughts and discussions enrich our community. Kindly drop a comment below. Thanks for watching.